Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Projects 3. Today we'll be going over the win-loss tile. The win-loss tile is a O4 only feature. It can be seen on the web for those that have purchased the O4 program. O4 stands for Oasis 4, our fourth generation of Oasis. We're proud to present it as a part of a web product that is accessible through any mobile device. Here you can see the win-loss tile itself with its information of win, loss, and unknown projects. I'm going to give you a quick overview and then we'll dive into the details. Clicking on any one of the blue links on the screen will bring you into the web page showing you the information related to that, whether it's the won, lost, or unknown. I've clicked on the all function showing all quotes and what's going on with that. With the all area, we're seeing some nice graphs showing you the difference between your won and loss and unknown. Below, we have graphs showing a side-by-side of, in this case, customers, and that can be changed over to manufacturers and others. Clicking on any one of those can filter it down, and you kind of get to dive into the details. Very quickly, I have a lot of people that ask me, what's the point of win-loss? Why should I even care? Win-loss can be really something that is a game changer. If you're able to find out what jobs you've won on and the ones you've lost on, you're really able to find that winning combination and also look for areas of improvement. If you're losing on jobs and you find that it's a specific vertical or customer distributor combination, then you can see where your areas of weakness are and either choose to let go of that area that's non-profitable for you or seize the opportunity for growth. But first, what I'd like to go through is talk about how we're going to set this up and what's needed to run the win-loss tile. Because if you haven't done the setup, when you run the win-loss tile, you will have 100% in the unknown. Okay. Now, tiles cannot be created on the web just yet. They have to go through Legacy Oasis. So I'll show you that information there. Go to the O4 dashboard. And here you'll see the tiles area and be able to create them here. But before we can create the win-loss tile, there's a little bit more setup that needs to be done. Unlike other tiles, there is a configuration in projects that needs to be set up before you create the win-loss tile. You can set it up afterwards. You would just need to wait until or reset the win-loss tile so that it would generate it with the setup information. That information is found for the configuration is found in Projects, the File menu, and Configuration. On this configuration window, we're going to go to Quote Statuses. Now, you'll want to leave everything as is. Don't make any changes to these checkboxes. Just a little bit of a warning. You only want on these ones that say on, you only want one checkbox per column. Create some problems there. So if you see two checkboxes, figure out which one you want to keep and get rid of the other one. Just a little side note on that one. But what we're worried about today is this as order column. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer the way it's titled, because what we're actually doing is making a label for what the significance of these quote statuses are. We have one-letter codes that you'll type in, and you don't need to type in anything more than these one letters. The letters are W for win, L for loss, U for unknown, and I for ignore. The ones that you'll want to mark as ignore definitely is abandoned, and loss, of course, should be loss. Now, just to clarify the difference between abandoned and lost, because a lot of times they can be misconstrued as the same thing. When we talk about abandoned, what we're talking about is a job that technically you lost, but it's not something that's going to negatively affect you because it never made it to the market. Maybe it was bidded on and then there wasn't enough funding backing it and they had to pull out completely. That would be an abandoned project. And that we're going to ignore because that had really no bearing on your agency or company at all. The unknowns are the ones that we're most interested in. You'll want to put those as unknown, specifically quoted or submitted, or the similar statuses related to it, because you may have some custom statuses. So what should be unknown? The statuses where you have a quote or a bid out on the street that you haven't followed up on, that you'll need to find out if you won the job or not. So if it's a status that does not define if you've won or lost that area or you're getting an order, then you'll want to leave those in unknown. Statuses that you'll want to mark as an ignore beyond what is abandoned are maybe like the new, pre-bid and design. It's too new to even know what's happening with it, so we're going to ignore those. And the closed. It's passed, it's already closed, we're done with the job, we're going to ignore that. Usually that happens years after. Now, which ones are we going to mark as a win? Order pending, ordered, and those that mean ordered. Whether it's a committed status or otherwise, any status that means that you have gotten the job as a positive confirmation and you are going to get an order, or in the case that this is a spec, you've won the spec. Okay, just to go over those again, W is win, L is for loss, U is for unknown, and I is for ignore. Most important to keep track of is the win, loss, and unknown. The unknown is ones that you want to follow up on, and there's other tiles to help with that, but the goal is that you have it marked as unknown so you at least know how much you have left on the table to figure out what's going on. All right, so that's the pre-setup that we have to do. Fairly simple there. So feel free to give that a try out. And that actually affects the legacy version of the win-loss reporting as well. So if you've ever done win-loss reporting in Oasis and got a bunch of crazy numbers that didn't make any sense, go check out that configuration and make sure that's set up properly. All right, now, so how do we set up the tile? I'm going to go through the setup for that. In the main screen of Oasis, you're going to click on the O4 dashboard. Then on the tiles menu and create. You'll want to give the tile a name if it's win-loss or if you're filtering it for a specific company or even a work group if you just want to see win-loss by work group. Who do you want to create the tile for? Go ahead and add those names in. I'm going to bug a few of my coworkers. Don't create the tile for yourself. If you want to create it for everyone else but yourself, go ahead and click here. And then this is going to, right now, this is not a whole lot of meaning at this point in time, but future-wise, we're going to be having this be able to be landed in multiple areas. So when lost tile relates to quotes, we could have this land on the quotes main page, or we could have this land on the home page, manufacturer page, things of that sort. I'm going to have it land on the home page for just right now. All right, now into the gritty details of the tile itself, the calculation details. The first thing you'll notice is offset of months. What does that mean? Default is 3. So what that means is that we're not going to look at the quotes for the last 3 months. More than likely, you may not have information on that, whether they're win and loss, because we want to be able to look at the data that is closed and really see what it is and happening with that. So we're going to skip the last 3 months. For example, we're currently in April, so we're not going to be looking at March, February, or January. So we're really going to be looking at 2020, the last year. And then what it's going to do is look at 12 months after that. So we have a 3-month lag for a year. So it's going to looking at the last year. Anything more than that, then it's usually the date, the information is trending out. With everything that's happened over the last year, you can see why that having too many years in play could offset that, because what's winning in 2019 probably didn't win very well in 2020 or vice versa. So offset of 3 months, we're going to skip the last 3 months and we're going to look at the 12 months before that. Okay. Use original bid date. So this is if you want to force Oasis to look at the original bid date. The original bid date being the first date that's typed in. Now, as a general rule, we have this available for those that do want to force to use the original bid date. However, if you have long-running jobs where you change the bid date multiple times, this may not be for you. You may want to go with the current bid date. But if you want to see what currently is going on with a long-running job, check marking that use original bid date. That job that has a recent activity in the last 3 months will show up because it had a bid date last year. Next up is the quote level. The quote level is what level do you standardly use for selling in projects? What is your quoting level? What is the level that typically goes to order? Oasis default is sell. So most of the time you guys are going to use sell. If in doubt, just choose the sell amount. If you know that you standardly use level 1, then choose level 1, 2, or 3 as what you do with the quote. Once again, if you're not sure, just go with the sell and check that out. Then we have the min and max values. So if you really only want to narrow in on a particular range of quotes, say that you don't care about any quotes that are less than 50,000 or something like that, you can put that min value in and you can put a max cap because maybe you don't want to capture the outliers of the high ones. You want to see where your main road of quotes are and you know what that range is. So you can type in that min max value. If you're not sure, just go ahead and leave that blank. It's definitely not going to hurt anything. We're going to go through the filters. The filters are not required. And in fact, if it's your first time using the win-loss tile, I recommend leaving the filters completely blank. Just leave it wide open and see what you find out about your company. Underneath the filters, we have the header level. The header level information is the above the line level. So header level, we're not dealing with the individual lines. If it's a parent company manufacturer grouping, you're going to be dealing with that parent company level type information, what's on the general tab of the quote. Okay, this has to deal with the ranking, the quoter, sales account, CSR, all of these things assigned to on the major level, and then like the specifier areas, the winning customer information, contractors, and then down here, what may be working for the most of you is work group, so that you can create these win-loss tiles per work group. So you can create a global win-loss tile, which is what I recommend doing at the very beginning. It's your first time trying it. And then beyond that, you can create a win-loss tile for each individual work group to see how they're doing. And with agencies grouping up together in territories, this will give you a larger view of, you'll have the global view to take a look at, and then how each of those territories are being handling each other, because they're going to act differently. Okay. All of these are similar to the find function. So if you've used the find in Oasis, That's this is pretty much where it's pulling from. So a customer assigned to, so you're choosing the salesperson assigned to that customer. If you're wanting to do a win-loss tile for like a specific sales account with customers that are assigned to that. So you're just pulling in when a customer is assigned to. So where the sales account, that pulls from the sales account box where the percentages are split out at. The customer assigned to and contractor assigned to, that pulls from the specifier area. So for those that may not be familiar, those are two distinctions there, that if you're wanting to do a win-loss tile for a specific sales account or salesman in your group, then you'll want to know that distinction. This goes by the sales accounts box, which do I have let me see a project here, just for clarification. All right, for clarification on this general tab, when you go to choose sales accounts, names for the sales account, that will be pulling from this sales accounts box here. So if their name shows up here, that's going to be the sales account. Customers assigned to, this is going to be pulling from the specifiers area here. So if you see a salesman's name here and that customer there, or there is one other area that will pull from, and that is the customers tab. So if you have a sales account that is assigned to a customer that is selected on the customers tab, that would pull that as well. So that's the distinction between the sales account and the customer assigned to or specifier assigned to. So customer assigned to pulls more from this customer area. Specifier assigned to pulls from the specifiers field. Okay. Hopefully I didn't lose anyone on that one. I know that that can get confusing when you're looking at the setup itself. All right, back to the setup. Next is the filter for line level. And that's allowing you to filter by manufacturer or parent manufacturer. So line level, you're going to have several different manufacturers on your quote. If you want to only pull out a specific manufacturer and see how you're doing when lost with that brand, maybe it's a new brand that you're wanting to see if they're having a good presence in your market, or it's a brand that you're considering what to do next with it and how profitable it is for you. This would be something to take a look at. Manufacturer is the individual manufacturer itself. So in the case of like the child line, the child brands of those out there. And then the parent manufacturer would be that parent company brand that would also group up all the child brands together. All right, so now that we're done with all of the details of that, we're going to go ahead and click on Save. And as you can see in this win-loss, the win-loss 2 that I created, we're going to get that generating new tile data. Starting off right now, it'll take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes approximately to go through all of the information for the last year and show us some details. So as you'll say, this generating new tile data until it's complete. And then once it's complete, we'll see this information here, along with the date that it was completed on. All right, so how is it running right now? What is it doing behind the scenes? So with each tile that's created, it creates a batch job, what's called a batch job that runs in the background. Now, if you've purchased our 04 version of Oasis, we can push that to our cloud servers so that it does not run locally. However, if you're using this through the 04 dashboard and you haven't purchased the web side of it, this will run locally on individuals' machines. And in some cases, depending on the resources that machine has, that person may see some slowness. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. The good news, though, is the win-loss tile will only run weekly. So I've created that today. So, which is Tuesday. The next Tuesday, it is going to run on that, and so it'll have that lag. We did that because of the amount of time that it generates, and also we found that having it run any more, like daily, did not make a whole lot of difference in the numbers. So if this is something that you want to be ran for like a monthly a Monday meeting that you have going on, you'll probably want to have this start creating this on a Monday earlier than the meeting to run. So then you make sure that you get the latest information with that. Because that's the only way that currently right now, that is the way that you can control when it runs beyond just resetting the batch job itself. Okay, so the batch job, for those that are interested, this found in configuration, and it is only an admin function. It is possible to reset the batch job. However, you need to reset the batch job, recommend getting in contact with our support team and having them walk you through that. Okay. All right, so this tile that we're going to take a look at now, it ran yesterday around 3. That's when it was created on a Monday around 3 o'clock. And so now it's going to update every Monday at 3 for that. So if we had a 4 o'clock meeting every day or every Monday, that would be a perfect time to have that with the latest information. So let's take a look at those graphs that I showed you this earlier. We're currently looking at all. So this shows us all of the quotes for the last year with a 3-month lag. Remember, we're skipping those last 3 months. As you can see, we've done very well with the win versus loss. We're looking like an ace agency, right? We're showing just between the won and unknown at this point. So the idea is that you'd want to make sure that your unknown is a very small portion. If your unknown is the majority of the pie chart, then pretty much what that means is that you have a lot of catch-up work to do. That you've left a lot of things open you don't even know if you've gotten credit for or if you won it or not. And if it's more than a year old, more than likely you didn't win it, but you'll want to go back or at least choose a date that you're going to start following up on these, whether that date is today or you go back to the January 1st of this year and clean up those quotes. Going back to this bar chart, we're looking at win value. We can also drop down and see value percentages, win count, the number of quotes we have, and the count percentages. So just, for example, if I switch this over to win count, it's going to show me the count. And sometimes that can be, it can be another way to look at it, because just because it has the highest value does not necessarily mean that that entity is going to be the highest count. And then we can see the percentages. So this is live on the web when I'm clicking through. This is the web page of what you would see on the 04 version. Okay, click on this drop-down menu, and let's see. Let's pick on our sales accounts. Let's see how they're doing. So you can see per person how that they're doing, or none selected. Maybe people are taking their names off of it so it doesn't count against them, type of thing. So you can then click on those, and what that's going to do now is it's going to filter that for just the none selected. So now I can, as you can see here, this filter right here at the top, whatever I clicked on in the bar chart, it's going to create that as a filter, allowing me to have a dynamic drill down. So now maybe I'm trying to follow up on people, so I can flip over to quoter and see who the quoter is for all of these. And it's one particular person, then they're choosing a sales account there. So it opens it up to see if you have some training issues that you need to address, for putting the information in, or what's happening with that. If you're done looking at a filter, you can click on that X on the side and it will remove the filter and bring it back to everything. You can have multiple filters. So say I was looking at manufacturer. And I just wanted to click on, wanted to see a couple manufacturers. Maybe those are I'm just curious on. Oh, you can only do one at a time that way. Okay, but I could then click on another entity like this customer, and as you can see, I can have the multiple filters. So you can see I have the customer of ABC, and then the manufacturer that I chose, and then I have an option now if I want to remove all filters and reset it back. Okay. All right. Now that we've looked at how the charts work for the all function, let's take a look at our unknown section. So once again, the unknown is the statuses that we chose that are quoted bids or bids that have numbers on the street that we need to find out what's happening with them. So once again, we have all of these options to choose by, even vertical market. If you're not aware, you can actually choose the vertical market on a quote inside of Oasis and even set up the vertical markets for your area. So then you can distinguish between like an education job and a government job and start to see how you're doing. In this case, looks like all of our unknowns are in the commercial sector. More than likely, you're going to have several across the board, but you can see where your unknowns are at. You can find out what's going on with those. If this was your loss area, you could see where your biggest loss, loss of jobs is happening at. Once again, targeting into where your agency is weak in and to help you find out where you might be able to strengthen that up. All of this related to the win-loss is about trying to find what is your winning combination. So the win section shows you that. If I go to my one, the one is going to show you show me what my winning combinations are, where I'm strongest at. If I choose the vertical market, I can see that information. In this case, all my one values are none specified, so that's not overly helpful for me right now. So if that's what you see, then you have a lot of work to do for your team to get that information back up. I'll show you some tips and tricks on how to possibly change that here in a few minutes when we're done with the win-loss tile, just as a support type for the cleanup, as you might say, for this. But I can't stress enough about these different things. So many agencies have bettered their sales just by figuring out what their niche is or where their weakness is, and then asking the tough questions of what did we do wrong here? What did the other guy have that we didn't, that won the job? Are we missing do we have a gap in our brands that we need to fill in, or is a brand that they used on there not working for you? So you can ask all these tough questions, but you can ask them a little bit more informed versus going off of the gut feeling that that so many people do before having this information. I'm just going to click around a little bit just to kind of show you where what this looks like. Oh, one thing I almost forgot about. We can look at the top 50 quotes so you can see which brand they're on. If I click on this, so now it's, whoops, I think I double clicked a little too fast. Go back one. Oh, looks like it was just one quote. If there's more than one quote, then it would show me a listing of that. But in this case, I only had the one quote there, so it's taken me directly over to the quote. And this is what quotes look like in 04, or projects look like in 04 if you haven't seen this before. If you want to learn more about what's happening with projects, I highly recommend going back to our projects 1 and 2 overviews to catch up on that information. One of the neat things that we've changed is now the ranking color is obvious from inside the project. It's this yellow bar across this top is that ranking color that we have right now. For those that are curious about vertical markets, on the general tab of a project, and you can do this in 04 right now, you can choose the vertical market from here. So all you have to do is click on the edit menu and select the vertical market that that project needs to be. So go ahead and start doing that today. If you're not doing that or you don't know what I'm talking about, go find that vertical market inside the general tab of the project and take a look at that. All right, so we've covered the details of the win-loss tile. Now, I want to show you a little bit about the vertical market setup so that if you don't have it set up today or you need to make changes to it in support of this win-loss tile, you can do that. It's not something that's required for the win-loss tile. However, as I've worked with agencies with this win-loss tile, it is something that has illuminated some very interesting details that they didn't realize were happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Legacy Oasis. And if you're in a project in Oasis, a regular project, just to show you what that's doing, the vertical is right here underneath the project rank. This was introduced a couple years ago, so it may be something that you know, if you've used Oasis for quite a while, you may not have noticed it, but it's right here with all of the currently defaults. All right. So to change those verticals or to make adjustments to it, once again, we're going back to the project section of Oasis, up to the file menu and configuration. Then we're going to go to the vertical tab. Now, Oasis has some default settings or IDs for the verticals. And if you've not ever used them, now's the time to use it. And you'll want to think about the verticals for your market. And I highly recommend adding to the verticals early before you start using them and thinking about what you need to have. You can pull from like the Dodge listing information of verticals, or you can go a little bit more in depth and break out something like commercial. For example, a commercial building or floor build out, where you're actually building out the office, is different than the shell of the building. What would I believe it's called core and shell, because you're just getting the building up, but once you're filling it in with different offices and things, that's going to be different than the shell and the lobby and those things like that, which is going to be different from a commercial parking lot. So you could have a commercial, and that be like a commercial office. You could have a commercial core and shell. You could have a commercial parking lot. So you can start breaking these down. Thing is, you want to think about that now and break it out before you start using it, because if you make changes after you started using the vertical, it becomes a little bit more tricky. If I were, for example, I'm using commercial right now. If I come in here and retype something over commercial, all of my jobs that are marked commercial are going to be whatever I typed in new. So if I'm adding in those extra layers like the commercial off, I want to change this to commercial office. And then I want to add in commercial core and shell. And then commercial parking lot, because all of those are going to have different meanings. And what I'm leaning towards is mainly the lighting square footage number amount and the control square footage dollar amount. I'll get to those just a moment here, okay? So now I've added that. I've used commercial. So now everything that I have marked as commercial is now commercial office, whether it's actually a commercial office or not. So be careful about that, because I've just directly changed everything in the database. You've been warned. So what are these next columns? So lighting square footage, control square footage. We're not typing in the actual square footage, but the dollar amount per square foot. Once again, building out the office, building out the core and shell, and a parking lot are going to have different numbers for that. And how you find those numbers is where really the meat of the work is. And that is up to you if you decide to use that or not. Some agencies find that as a really great benefit, because as soon as I create a project, if I go back to the project here, as soon as I create a project, I can choose a vertical, type in a square footage, and immediately get a general valuation for the lighting and controls, and then overall valuation. This you can find out through different methods by a previous jobs, calculating their square footage versus the value of the job that you quoted, and then posting that into your system. So some people find value in this, some people do not. But I want to let you know about that. As we're starting to use valuation in O4 more, you'll start to see that number show in some areas, such as like the bid board and things of that sort. So that's how they do that. Plus, you can use the vertical on the win-loss tile and really start to see some interesting information, such as what if it's a vertical market your weekend or strong in. So I want to thank you guys so much. We're going to open this up for questions at this time. All right, so we have questions?
Yes. Somebody asked, if we don't subscribe to O4, will we still be able to use the features that you're showing today?
So that is a great question. Unfortunately, the exact features that I showed you today, as far as the O4 tile, is going away in June. So the O4 dashboard, if you don't purchase O4, the O4 dashboard is going away in June, so you won't have access to that. However, inside of Legacy Oasis, there is a win-loss report that you can use underneath the project section of Oasis, and where did we put that? Yeah, we call it the customer success report, is the legacy version of the win-loss report. And so that one, it has a little bit different settings and don't have time to go into today. And it forces you to create known and unknown statuses, but it doesn't have the function of one loss type of thing, like the 04 version does. So that is what's available to you if you don't purchase 04. However, we built upon that in the 04 version and added some more features in it. So highly recommend the 04 version. Plus, it's one thing that's different between that and Legacy is 04 is available to any mobile device that can access the web page. Okay. Any other questions?
That was all of our questions.
All right. Well, if anyone has any other questions, we'll hang around for a few more minutes. Feel free to type those up and send them my way. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate you guys being here. Hope you were able to get something from this. And I hope it was enjoyable for you.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you.